Hello and welcome to Pixel Magic Tutorials. I am your host Geekman, and today we're going to learn how to create gears and sprockets in Photoshop, and then we'll turn those gears and sprockets into custom shapes that we can reuse anytime we please. So, a couple of things to get out of the way right off the bat. Number one, I am using Photoshop CC 2017. If you're using an earlier version of Photoshop, some of the effects may not work as expected. Second, I am using Windows. If you're using a Mac, then when I say hit the Control key on your keyboard, that means hit the Command key. And when I say hit the Alt key on the keyboard, that means hit the Option key. So with that out of the way, let's get started by hitting Control N on the keyboard to bring up our new image dialog box. And let's rename our image as gears because we are making gears and sprockets. Our width is 3840, our height is 2160, our resolution is 150 pixels per inch, color mode RGB color 8-bit. The background contents, we want them to be white so that we can work with black objects. Our color profile is Adobe RGB 1998. And we're using square pixels. Hit create, and we are now ready to begin. Now there are three things that we need to do before we actually begin creating the sprockets. Number one, we are going to want our default colors to be black and white. So we want them to go back to the default. So the way that we do that is we hit D on the keyboard like that to change our colors to black and white, or you can just click on the little black and white icon on your toolbar, which will change it to the default black and white. Next, we want to make sure that our rulers are showing so that we can set guidelines. So if you don't see your rulers, you want to hit Control R on the keyboard, or you want to go to View and make sure that rulers has a little check mark. Once you see your rulers, you want to click on the ruler and drag down to the center of the document. It will snap in place like it just did for me, and then let go. And that is now a center line of your document. Next, you want to make sure that you click on the left-hand side and drag out, and when it snaps to the center like that, let go, and you now have the center point of your document. And that is going to make what we are going to do a lot easier. Now, the only tools that we are going to need in order to create this are going to be the shape tools and the transform tool. That's really all you need in order to create sprockets and gears. Now, I did a whole tutorial on the transform tool keyboard shortcuts, which makes doing these types of projects a breeze. If you haven't seen that, I have a link in the description below to that video. Now, for the shapes, what we want to do is we want to start with a ellipse tool. So the way that you do that is you hit U on the keyboard until you select the shapes tool, or you click on the shapes tool over here on your toolbar. And in order to get to the ellipse tool, you can hit Shift U on the keyboard until you see the ellipse, or you can click and hold, and on the flyout menu, choose the ellipse tool. And then what we want to do is make sure that we are using a shape, fill of black, stroke of no stroke, and nothing else here really matters at this point in time. So then we're going to draw a circle. So let's draw a circle by holding down Shift and dragging outwards, and that will constrain it to a circle. Once you have a circle, we're going to want this circle in the center of our document. And the way that we do that is you go to our Move tool, or you hit V on the keyboard, and then you click and you drag until you reach the very center, like so. Once you are in the center, the guidelines will change color to show that they are lined up. And that, in my case, they change from a cyan to kind of a pinkish purple, and then I can let go and I am in the center of my document. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to create a rectangle shape on our document. But the important thing about this is that rectangular shape needs to be on a brand new shape layer. Now, there are two simple ways to make sure that that's going to happen. Number one, you can simply create a brand new layer on the Layers palette by clicking on the new layer icon, and then anything you draw will then be on that layer. And it will take over that layer and become a shape layer like this. See? Brand new ellipse shape layer. The other way to do that is, see how this is highlighted, the ellipse, number one? If you just click anywhere on the gray area of your layers palette like this, it will deselect all your layers, and then the next thing that you draw will create a new shape layer, just like it did for me. So those are the two ways to make sure that you create your shapes on new layers. Now, knowing that that's how that works, I'm going to click here on the layers palette gray area to deselect my layers. Then I'm going to click on the ellipse shape tool here and hold until I see the rectangular tool and select it. And then I'm going to draw a rectangle like so. I now have a rectangle, but I don't want a square tooth for my my sprocket or gear. What I want is kind of a tapered tooth, almost like a triangle. So what I'm going to do is hit Control T on the keyboard to bring up my transform tool, and then I'm going to hit Control Alt and Shift on the keyboard, and then I can grab the upper right hand handle, and as I pull that in towards the center, it will mirror what I'm doing on the left hand corner. So I now have a triangular-ish tooth that I can use. I can then hit the check mark up here to accept that, and it will ask me if I want to turn this into a regular path. Yes, I do. You almost always do. So you can check mark the don't show again and then hit yes, and you won't see that annoying pop-up box again. Then what we want to do is grab our new tooth by using the Move tool, hit V on the keyboard or select the Move tool up here on your toolbar, and then bring that to the very center of our document. It will change color like that, and then align it to the top of your gear circle. You now have a single tooth. And here's where the transform keyboard shortcuts really come into play. What we are going to do is make a copy and rotate this tooth all the way around our circle. And the simplest way to do that is using the transform tool keyboard shortcuts and creating copies of the tooth and rotating them around a center of our choosing, which would be the center of the document right here, and then repeating that ad nauseum until we have a full circle. So here's how we're going to do that. With our tooth, our rectangle layer selected, you hit Control Alt and T on the keyboard, and that will bring up the transform tool. Then you can select the center rotate point, and you want to bring that all the way down to the center of the image like that, and you'll see that it's the center because you'll see a little blank space around your guidelines. That means it's the exact center of the guides. Once you have that, we are going to rotate this, go up to the rotate option up here, and whatever you rotate, you want to make sure that since this is a circle, it's easily divisible into 360. So you want to use numbers like 10, 15, 20, 30, 45, those kind of numbers, because they go into 360 degrees. Other numbers like 25 don't, so you would have an odd number of teeth and it wouldn't look right. So what we're going to use, let's use 15 degrees, and that gives us kind of a cool tooth look, and you see that it made a copy and rotated it. We can then hit the check mark up there, and now we can hit Control, Alt, and Shift at the same time and hit T on our keyboard to continually create new teeth that rotate around the center point of our circle until we get back to the top again. And we now have the beginnings of a gear. Now what we need to do is combine all of these different layers and shapes into one single shape layer. So the way that we do that is using our Move tool, and you just select everything as if you were selecting everything in a Windows Explorer or a Mac folder. You just draw a box around it, and you'll see that everything was selected. Now that everything is selected, what we are going to do is we are going to go here to Layer. You're going to go down to Combine Shapes and Unite Shapes. They are now united into one rectangle. However, even though they are all one layer, one rectangle, one copy 23 layer, what they actually are still separate shapes. If I go back to the shape tool, you will now see that they are still all separate shapes, just layered on top of each other. That's not what we want. So we need to be in our shape tool, and then up here, this very first square over here on the toolbar for options, you click on that, and down here at the bottom it says Merge Shape Components. Click on that. It will say it's going to turn a live shape into a regular path, but if you check this before, you won't see this again. And now you only have one continuous shape, and that is our beginning shape of a sprocket. But sprockets usually are hollow in the center. Gears usually have something in the center like a circle or some kind of hole for things to stick into to turn them. So that's what we're going to add in now. We're going to hollow this out so it turns into kind of a gear or sprocket. So we're going to go back to our shape tool. We're going to go back to the ellipse tool. And then we are going to click on our gray area or create a new layer so that we're on a new layer when we create this. And we're going to hold down Shift and we're going to draw another circle. We now have another circle. And we're going to move this circle again to the very center lines. Now, I can't see what I'm doing because it's black. So it's very hard to work with. So the way that we're going to fix that is you hit Control and Backspace. That will fill it with white. And now we can see what we're doing. So we're going to make sure it lines up with these center guidelines. They've changed color so I can let go. And then we are ready to delete this from the shape. And how do we do that? Once again, we select everything like that. We go up here to Layer. We go to Combine Shapes. We go to Subtract the Front Shape. Because if you look on our Layers palette, the ellipse that we just created is on top of or in front of the sprocket design that we created. So we want to subtract what's in front to make a hole in what's behind. So we're going to do Subtract Front Shape. And oh my gosh, what happened? Don't worry, they're still there. What happens is the shape that we cut out, the shape that we cut the circle out from, our gear shape, took on the color properties of the shape in front, meaning the circle. The circle was white, our sprocket was black. We cut out the white, so the sprocket turned white also. So all we have to do is double click on the little thumbnail of the ellipse that we have here and change it from white to black. And there is our gear all ready to go. Now this is a very simple gear that we created very quickly. So let me show you how you would save this as a custom shape for use in all of your designs. What you need to do is select the shape like that, just like we did before with the Move tool, and then you go to Edit and Define Custom Shape. However, if you notice, Define Custom Shape, which I am hovering over right now, is grayed out. Now there's a reason for that. And the reason is you need to be on the Shape tool in order for this to work. You have to select the layer, be on the Shape tool, and then Edit and Define Custom Shape is available. There's also another little trick that could drive you as crazy as it drove me when I was first learning this technique. Okay, if you are a clever Photoshop user and you normally would hide the guides after you are done to get a good look at what you have created by hitting Control H on the keyboard to hide your guides, if you do that, it also hides the path from being seen. So if the path is hidden, even if you have selected your object like that and you are on your Shape tool, if you go to Edit, Define Custom Shape is not available. The only way to get the Define Custom Shape to work is you have to unhide your guides. So Control H on the guides, it's the only thing I've changed. Go to Edit and Define Custom Shape is available. So that's a little trick, a little bonus tip to help you get through this if you're finding yourself scratching your head over why Define Custom Shape is not showing up. So now that we're ready to define our custom shape, you click on Define Custom Shape, you name your shape, you hit OK, and your shape will be there. So I'm going to name this for myself Gear 5 because I've made some more before while I was testing. Hit OK, and then you're going to want to know where your shape is. So you click on the flyout menu of your Shape tool, and you go down to Custom Shape tool, and down under Custom Shape, it will be the very last shape that you have created. See, I've created these already. Whoops, it should be shape number 6. I'll rename that right now because you always can. You right-click on it, hit Rename Shape, and we will rename this as Gear 6. Hit OK, and we now have 6 shapes that I created right before this video, 5 before and 1 during. Now, very quickly, what I'm going to do now is show you how this technique can be used to create very complex seeming gears very quickly. So I'm going to run through this very quick. I won't describe everything that I'm doing. I'm just going to do it so that you can see what I'm doing and see how quick and easy it is to create these types of shapes. So very first thing that we're going to do is an ellipse tool. We're going to draw out our shape like that. We're going to move it to the center, just like so. Okay, it's in the center. Now we're going to draw a new rectangle tool. I'm going to do this like that. I'm going to hit Control T, and this time I am going to make this like so. Yeah, this looks good. Okay, then we're going to hit check mark. We're going to then, yes, hit yes. And then we're going to move this over to here like so. Control T, I actually want to move this a little bit more like that. That looks better. Now I'll move this to the center. Perfect. Control Alt T. I'm going to move this down to the center here like so. Come on. There you go. And then I'm going to rotate this by 20 degrees like that. Check mark. We're now ready. Control Alt T. And we have made all of those. We're then going to select everything, and we are going to go to Layer, Combine Shapes, Unite Shapes. That's great. Then we're going to go back to our Shape tool. We're going to make sure that we merge all of our shape components. Hit Yes. We are then going to cut out a center point. Actually, before we do that, we're going to make a few circles in this to make it look like more of a sprocket. So we are going to draw another little circle right there. We are then going to drag this circle. Whoops, I can't see it. So let's hit Control N, Control Backspace. We are now going to be in the center like this. We are then going to hit Control Alt and T. We'll drag this down to the center like this. Whoops, come on, get in there. And then we are going to rotate this by, let's make this by 45 degrees. Whoops, too much, 45 degrees. Then we're going to hit the check mark, and then we're going to hit Control Alt Shift T. And we now have that. So then we can also draw another big circle. We'll do another one here. Let's do that. And we will put this in the center. I can't see what I'm doing, so Control Backspace to fill that with white. There we go. We're in the center. Control T. Let's make this a little bit bigger, like so. And then we're going to select everything, and we're going to layer, combine shapes, subtract. Whoops, that's the wrong thing. Control Z, I hit the wrong one. Go to Layer, Combine Shapes, Subtract from Front Shape. And then what we want to do is go here and make it black so that we can see what we're doing. And we now have a new complicated seeming sprocket in less than a minute and a half. That's the power of using this technique to create your gears and sprockets, and you can create literally thousands of these in just a few hours. So there you go. That's creating sprockets and gears in Photoshop using the transform tool and then saving them as their own custom shapes for use in your later documents. I hope that you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, please give me a comment, give me a thumbs up, and subscribe. This is Geekman signing off for Pixel Magic Tutorials.